Okay, here we are again. This is part 2 of the Japan travel brochure project. And in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to actually put everything together. We've prepared the photos now, and we're going to start laying things out in the in the program Adobe InDesign. The way we're going to do that is because this is a mock-up. And a mock-up, again, is simply a prototype, if you will, to show a client what a project might look like before it's actually produced. And a lot of times clients want to know that before they commit. They want to see the design, they want to see what it looks like, how it's going to look. And then once they approve that, then they'll send us all the actual photographs maybe that are used in the piece, the actual copy, what the words are going to say, and get down to the real nitty-gritty in putting the project together. It works well for a client to know what they're going to get. It also is very beneficial to you as a designer, so that you don't have to go through all these ideas and then show it to the client and then go, we don't really like it, and then come back and have to revise things. And it's just a big waste of time for everybody. It takes longer. You don't make the profit that you want. So the idea in all of this is good communication with the client and the ability to be able to produce something in a relatively profitable amount of time. I'm not saying a short amount of time, because a lot of times these projects take a long time to create. But in my Fundamentals of Graphic Design course, I talk about the actual dealings with clients, how to work with clients, how to communicate with them to get what you need to get a project finished. And that can be tricky sometimes. So you need to know what questions to ask, and you need to know how to kind of create the urgency for them to give you the materials that you need to get this done. Okay, we're going to assume that that's already done, and now it's just a matter of us putting this together. Now, the layout that you're going to do in this is a layout that was designed by me. All you're doing is kind of emulating that, copying that, and doing exactly what you see. But in reality, of course, you would be creating your own layout. And again, in my Fundamentals of Graphic Design course, I talk about ways that designers work to create layouts before we even present them to clients. Little thumbnails that we do, sketches, ideas, revisions. These are all things that happen before the client even sees the project. So we talk about that in that course. But in this course, we're going to talk mainly about how to put this together. So let's get to it. I'm going to share my screen. And let's go right to, again, the layout of the of the brochure. Okay, it's a 8-page brochure where this is the cover, and then we have spread 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. I'm sorry, page 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 5, 6 and 7, and page 8 is the back cover. And we're going to put all of this together. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to create one spread, and we're going to use the elements of that spread because this does not say anything, because this is actual what we call placeholder copy. We're going to copy all of this and paste it into the second spread, and then again paste it into the third spread. And this gives the client an idea of what these spreads are going to look like. The copy really hasn't been written yet, so we don't really have to worry about the actual words. And then these photos will be photos that the client is going to give us, so we're just kind of filling in imagery here. And again, these little captions here are all kind of placeholder copy as well. So really, this makes no sense in terms of what it says, but it makes a lot of sense in terms of what it's going to look like. Okay. So let's get to this. You have downloaded this Japan Assets Brochure, the zip file. You're going to double click that and open it up. And you're going to see all those photos, and you know where the photos are because you've used that to create the vignetted knockouts already in Photoshop. And so we're going to go back to InDesign, and we already opened up our document. And if I go over to, I'm going to start with the Essentials Classic layout palette. And that's going to make our palette look like this. And I'm going to go to Pages, and we're going to see how we set this up from the previous video, an 8-page document. Now I put in the photo already. I placed the photo in page 2 and 3 in the last video just as a demonstration. Let me get this out and delete this, and we'll start from scratch. Okay, so we have 8 blank pages here, and we're going to start with well, let's start at the start. Let's start with page 1. Okay, this is going to be the cover. And if you're not familiar already with InDesign's, the way you see things, the W key on your keyboard kind of toggles you from what's considered a working mode. This is how we work. This is how we construct things. We can see guidelines that we pull in. We can see margins. But when we want to see the document without any of the margins or guides, things that don't print, we hit the W key, and you can see how the interface changes to a light gray background here, and all the margins disappear. All of your guides will disappear if you have guidelines here. Text boxes, frames, things like that will all disappear. When we hit W again, we have the working mode. Okay, so most of the times we're in this working mode, and that gives us an idea of where things are and how to space things out. Okay, the first thing that we're going to do, and I would suggest that you have your Canvas example open so you can refer to this and you can see kind of basically where things are, what the positioning of elements are. I'm not giving you any specific measurements on this, but I will give you point sizes for type and typeface fonts and things like that. But it'll be up to you to kind of use your eyes to figure out kind of where things are being placed on the page, the position of things. Again, I'm not giving you specific measurements like a written tutorial might. Things about written tutorials I don't like is that they're so specific that it's really kind of a pain. Let's just use our eyes and let's look and see about where things are. So let's break this down and let's see what we have going here. First of all, we have a photograph as a background. We have this kind of ghosted box here where we can see through the background. We have large type that says Japan, and then we have another line of type that says Land of Enchantment. If I go to my InDesign file, I have the finished file right here that I've already done. And if I pull this apart, you can see exactly what the elements are. I'm going to unlock this background layer here for a second. And I'm going to just kind of make this a little bit smaller so that you can see. I have a background photo, so if I pull that away, you can see that is one element. We have this ghosted box here. That's another element. Oops. Let me select this and pull this up. You can see that. Then we have this text box here, Japan, and then we have this text box here, Land of Enchantment. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 elements on this page. Very simple. And if you break it down like that, this is not a complicated layout to construct. Okay, we're going to bring in a photo, we're going to set some text, we're going to draw a box with reduced opacity, and we're done. So let me Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, Command Z. Remember, Command Z is undo. And so let's build this page. I'm going to go to our document here. And the first thing I'm going to do is bring in the photo. Actually, the first thing I'm going to do is create a layer structure. And this layer structure is going to be the structure for all pages for this entire document. Now in InDesign, we have the ability to create layers, just like we do in Photoshop. We can actually create the entire layout on one layer in InDesign. In Photoshop, we wouldn't be able to do that, but in InDesign, we can actually do that. But I suggest you create layers, and my method of creating layers for graphic documents are I usually create a minimum of 3. The first layer is, the top layer is type. The second layer underneath that are images, which are photos and graphics and things like that. And the bottom layer is usually the background. And that's usually your background element. If it's a colored background or a photograph that is acting like a background, that's where that goes. So I'm going to add 2 more layers. And you add layers down here in your layers palette. Okay, again, you click your layers palette, add and add. Okay, so we have 3 layers. I'm going to make the top layer, I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to call this type. And then I'm going to make the next layer images. And then the last layer, the blue layer, is going to be background. Now, we see blue, red, and green, and that's going to represent the bounding boxes around the elements that I put in. So it'll tell you what layer those elements are on. So when you see a green frame around some text, you're going to know that that's on the type layer. If you see a red outline around something, you'll know that that's on the images layer. Just like in Photoshop, layers are prioritized by the stacking order. So type is always going to be on the top layer. It's always going to be in the front. Underneath that is going to be the images layer. Underneath that is going to be the background layer. So you have to kind of understand layers to know how, things work. Remember we were talking about how to arrange things, send to back, bring to front, put it in the middle. Well, this is kind of your guide to what's in the middle, what's on top, and what's on, what's in the back. So think of it as layers. Okay, so once we have our layers selected, first of all, we haven't named this file yet. We haven't saved the file. And that's the very first thing that you should do when you open up a document is go ahead and give it a name, save it, and then that way as you work, you're going to be saving along the way. Okay, Command S, do some things, Command S, and keep saving so that nothing happens. Like it's a windy day today, and if you had a power failure and you forgot to save, you're going to lose everything. Okay, so make sure that you save. So I'm going to go up to File, and I'm going to save because it's an untitled document. We're going to save it for the very first time, and I'm going to click Save, and it's going to say, well, where do you want to save it? I'm going to save it in my Japan brochures folder. I'll make another folder here and call it demo. Okay, this is the demo. So let me do Command-Shift-N, and I'll call this demonstration and create that. And there's my demonstration folder. And now I'm going to save this file. I'm going to name it the Japan Travel Brochure. Okay, so name your file, whatever you want to call it, brochure or Japan or whatever. Japan Travel Brochure, under demonstration, I'm going to save this. It's an InDesign document, so let's save. Okay. Once we do that, you can see that it's no longer untitled up here. It's the Japan Travel Brochure .indd, so we've saved it. So now all we have to do is Command S to save as we go. Okay, I'm going to put my layers panel away, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my background photo. Under layers, I put this away, but under layers, what I'm going to do is I'm going to target the background layer. So when I bring in my photo, it's going to sit on the background layer. To import a photo, we actually place it. In InDesign, it's called Place. Okay, File, Place. We go up to File and Place. And the shortcut key is Command D. Anyway, we click on this, and then we're going to go to where our zip file was. And it was in the travel brochure assets. Remember, I got it from here. And under images, we had the cover and back photo. Okay, it happens to be a Photoshop photo, and we're going to open that. Okay, so you can see that that photo is loaded up in this icon here. And I'm just going to go up to the upper corner here, and I'm going to click and drag it to fill this page. Now, it's been sized to fit perfectly, but if it wasn't sized to fit perfectly, you would have to enlarge it or reduce it or modify it by cropping it a little bit in order for it to fit this page. It is on the background layer, and we know that because we have a blue frame around it, and that tells us that's on the background. Now, once I put a background down, I'm going to click off of this. Once I put a background down, I usually lock it so that it won't move by mistake. Okay, see, I'm clicking on it and trying to move it, and it doesn't move. If I uncheck lock, I can easily move this by mistake. And the reason I lock my background layers is because when you're trying to click on text and move it around, if it's not locked, you can inadvertently move the background. You know, we do that all the time, and it's really a pain. So I lock the background. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in that ghosted box. And if we look over here, if I look over here to my actual finished piece, I can see that this is on the second layer, or the graphics layer. Now, my layer structure in my example here is a little bit different than this. This is type, images, and background, which is green, red, and blue. But in my example here, it's kind of the opposite. Type is red, graphics is green, and background is blue. It doesn't really matter, but we can figure that out. Okay. If I click on this, I'll give you the size of this. I'm going to click on this box, and you can see up here when I click on this with my selection tool, you can see the size and dimension of what I'm clicking on. And this box happens to be 11 inches wide by 3.2 inches deep. Okay, so that's nice to know. And it also has an opacity of 25%. The color of this box, if I pull out my swatches, is black. So it's colored black, but it's 25% opacity. And that gives it that see-through feel. So let's do that. Let's grab our rectangle tool, and we're going to go on our images layer because our background layer is locked, so we can't draw anything on that. We want it on the images layer. Remember, all graphics, photos, you know, anything other than type and your background, I usually put on the images layer. Okay, I'm going to click over here in the corner, and I'm just going to click and drag a box. And notice how it comes out red because it's on the images layer. And I'm going to drag it over to the side here and, okay, make it exactly 11 inches wide. I'll just change it here. Okay, I know it's 11 inches wide, but what was the size here? It was 3.2. Okay, so let me just click 11 inches by 3.2 and then hit return. And that's going to be the size of my, oops, I want to uncheck this. So let me make this 11. There we go. Okay, so 11 by 3.2. And then I'm going to get my swatches out. I'm going to click on the stroke and make the stroke none because I don't want any stroke around the shape. Then I'm going to click on my fill, and I'm going to color it black. So we see that. Now I'm going to come up here to the opacity, and I'm going to come down and make the opacity 25%. Okay, I can double click and type in 2.5 and return. And now we have this kind of ghosted box here. You can see it's kind of a ghosted box. Okay, and that's what this is right here. I think it was black. Yeah. This was a black fill. Oh no, this was a paper fill. I'm sorry, it wasn't black fill. So let's go back here. Okay, I'm going to click on this. Okay, and instead of filling with black, I'm going to fill it with paper. There it is. Okay, it's a paper fill and it's 25%. Okay, bear with me when I'm doing this demo because there's a lot of things that we're going to go back and forth with, and I might mess things up a little bit, but we'll fix that. Okay, so here's this. Let me put the swatches away. We have this now, and now we have to know where to put it. Okay, so again, use your eyes. Okay, you see where this branch comes in, and it kind of is like there's about this much space in here. So let's go back here, and let's just kind of move this down a little bit. So somewhere around in here looks good. Okay, that's good enough. All right, so that's where this is going to be. Now, let's set the text. So I'm going to come back up to layers, and I'm going to get on my type layer, and I might just now lock my images layer so I can't move the background or this box by mistake. So now everything that I do is going to be in type, on type. So I'm going to grab my text tool, and I'm going to click and drag a text box. I know the word Japan is really big. And I'm going to type in Japan in all caps, Japan. And I'll tell you right now what the typeface is. The typeface on this is a typeface called Chunk 5. I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to go up to Chunk 5, which is under C. And there it is, okay? Now, Chunk 5 is a typeface that I gave you in that zip file. Okay, it's a font that's not on your computer. So you're going to have to install that in FontBook on your Mac at school. Okay, and it's very easy. You just open up FontBook. It's an application. You drag Chunk 5 into FontBook, and it will show up now in InDesign, Photoshop, any Adobe program. So here's Chunk 5, okay, and the font size is 154 points. So I'm going to give you that. I'm going to double click here in the font size and type in 154 and then hit enter, and there is the font. Okay, now the reason why we're not seeing all of it is because this text box isn't big enough. So let's get on the selection tool and let's kind of move this text box out until we have all of that. Now, if I look at the example here, you can see that this text box is, let me highlight this text. And we can see that it's 154 points. And let's see what... Okay, it's not giving me actually a reading on this in terms of, oh, it's 59% opacity. Okay, so it looks like it's black and it's 59% opacity. So let's do that. Let's go over to this and let's highlight this text after we set it. It's already black. So we'll come up here and we'll make it, oh, I'm sorry. We'll select it with our selection tool and we'll make it 59% opacity. Okay, yeah, there it goes. So it looks something like that. Okay, actually it looks a little bit darker than that to me. It does look a little bit darker than that. Let me just double check this again and see. Okay, this is 59%. And if I highlight this word, it is interesting. Okay. Yeah, it looks like it's a little bit more than 59%. So I'm going to undo that. And let's just make this instead of 59%, let's just make this, yeah, it looks like about that. Looks like about 81%. Okay, we'll leave it at that for now. That's good enough. Okay, and I'm going to tighten this up a little bit. Now here's where you might want to click your W key and kind of take a look and see what it looks like without all of the other text boxes and frames and margins and stuff. Okay. Now I also think what happened was I think I tightened up the tracking on this. Yes, it's minus 50 in terms of the spacing between letter forms. So we're going to do that. Let's highlight this text and let's make it minus 50 up here. So I'll bring this down and go to minus 50. And you see how that tightened up the letters? Makes it look better. And I will bring this over and kind of bring this out, center this in here. Okay, so that's the way that should look. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to set the word Land of Enchantment. Okay, and just to give you an idea of what the size of that is, let's let me pull this out for a sec. Oops. Highlight that. I know that that's in white. That's chunk 5, 20 points. Land of Enchantment. And it's centered. The alignment is centered. So let's go do that. I'm going to type, get the text tool, and I'm going to click and draw a, click and draw a text box. I'm going to make sure that it's centered up here, so it's centered. And I'm going to make it chunk 5. So let's find chunk 5 there. And the swatches, I'll make it paper, so it's white. And I'll make the size 20 points. Double click there, 20, return. And now I'll type in Land of Enchantment. Land of Enchantment. Okay. Now you can type in Land of Enchantment and change the specs on this, the attributes afterwards, or you can do everything before and then type the word in, and either way is fine. Okay, now I want to position this. Let me Command Z all this back so that we can see where the positioning was on this. And it looks like it tucks right underneath the word Japan, kind of between the A and the A over here, and centered. So let's do that. I'm going to bring this up, click and hold so I can see the actual word move. And I'm going to move it over here, somewhere in here like that. Okay, maybe move it down a little bit. I'm using my down arrow. And what I want to do is I want to get this where it centers in here and looks kind of comfortable. You know, the spacing in here looks centered. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. So I'll let that go. Land of Enchantment. Make sure I spelled everything correctly. Okay. And now I'm going to save it. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick Command S, and save it. So the cover is done. Now the cover and the back cover, if we look at the very back cover here of this brochure, we can see that the back cover is the same as the front cover. The only difference is this type right here. So let's make the back cover right now. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go up to my layers palette and I'm going to unlock the images and the background layer, which means this box and the background. That's all we're going to copy and paste. We don't want to paste this text, so I'll lock the type layer. And then I'm going to select everything. on this page. Okay, doesn't matter because the type won't select. The only thing that'll select is the background in this box. So I'll just kind of do a marquee, kind of click and touch both, right? I'm touching the background and that box. They both select. And I'm going to do Command C for copy, Command C. Now I'm going to go to my pages and I'm going to go over to page 8 and I'm going to paste that in. And I'm going to do Command V. And there is my background and the bar. And all we have to do is put in the type, this text here, and we'll be done with the back. Okay, we'll do that later. But for now, we've got page 1 and page 8 done. Okay, so we're going to save this, do a quick Command S. And now let's go build page 2 and 3. Okay, once we build page 2 and 3, page 4, 5, and 6, 7 should come together fairly quickly. Okay, so I'm going to go to page 2 and 3 and hit my W key so we can see our working view. And now let's take a look at what page 2 and 3 look like. All right. So this is what page 2 and 3 look like. We have the temple here. And if I open up my layers and uncheck my background, you can see, let's pull this apart and let's see all the elements here. We've got the temple is the background. We have the Japan text, we have this text box, these photos, and these little captions, okay? And these little lines here, these little vertical lines, okay? Then we have this text, this circle, and this vertical line. And then we have this sound button, which we'll do in the last video. We'll worry about how to do that. Okay, so I'm going to Command Z all of this back and get these all back in place. And get the photo back in here. Okay, so that's what this is comprised of. The photo here and these photos, okay, will all be on the images layer, as well as this circle. And the sound button will be on the images layer. And then this, all the rest is type, and that will be on the type layer. Okay, so let's go to our spread and let's bring in that Japan photo, the temple. So I'm going to use File Place or Command D. And I'm going to go to my Japan vignette. Remember, we made this in Photoshop. So I'm going to open this up. Here it is. And I'm going to just kind of click here and we'll see our photo. We'll move this up and position it right there. And this is on our background layer. Okay, so this serves as our background, and now we'll lock the background. Unlock the type and images layer here. Okay, so we have that done, easy enough. Next thing we'll do is we'll set the Japan text. Okay, so let's do that. Now we already have the Japan text set. I'm going to do something here, and I want to show you how, whenever you have elements that you've already done, just copy and paste them rather than doing this all over again. Okay. Now I'm going to click on this Japan text right here, and I'm going to just do a quick Command C, copy it. I'm going to come over to page 2 and 3, and I'm sorry, come over here, select that, copy it, Command C, go over to 2 and 3, and then paste it, Command V. So there it is. And I'm going to bring it up here, but I'm going to tell you right now that the typeface is a little bit smaller. It's not 154 points. The typeface on this is going to be 147 points. So let's double click in here and do 147, okay, to make it a little bit smaller. The tracking is minus 50, so that's fine, but there is no opacity to this. This is going to be fully 100% black. And then we're going to come over to our swatches palette here, and we're going to, because this text is black, the text, highlight the text. Text is black, 100%. We're going to make the tint on this 45%. Okay, so we're going to make this gray. So that's the way this text is going to look. Okay, it's going to say Japan. It's going to be black at a tint of 45%. It's going to be chunk 5, 147 points with minus 50 tracking. Okay, I know there's a lot of things to show you here in this one word, but I want to show you all the features of InDesign so that you know. And these are the things that designers do. Okay, so we have this text here, and roughly, I'm just going to roughly position it here for now. We'll see what, the exact position. We're going to move these things around. Okay, let's go back to our actual example here. And we have this text box here, and we have text inside of it. And I'm going to show you how to make placeholder text. So let's go over here, and this text box is roughly 3 inches wide by 4 inches, 4.5 inches deep. 3 inches wide by 4.5 inches deep. So let's make that rough text box here. Okay, and I'm going to get on my text tool and target my text layer, okay, my type layer. And I'm going to just kind of click a text box here. And I'm going to come up here and select that text box 3 inches wide by, let's just say 3, hit my tab key by 4.5 inches wide. Hit return, and that's about the size of this text box. I'm going to get my text tool and click in it. And I'm going to fill this with placeholder text. And I'll tell you right now that the placeholder text is Myriad Pro condensed. Okay, so here's Myriad Pro. Let's go down to Myriad Pro. That's this right here. And it's condensed. Myriad Pro condensed. The size of this text is going to be 12 over 14. So 12 over 14 is fine. And the color of this text is going to be black, but 65% black. So we're going to come over to our swatches. Here's our text. We're going to make it black, but we're going to make it 64% black. Or 65% black. Okay. 65, enter. Okay, now what we're going to do is come up to type, and we're going to come down to fill with placeholder text and select that. And it's going to populate this text box with some kind of Latin, this is Latin, kind of just Latin words, but it looks like text. Okay, and that's the point of, creating text boxes that look like text. In other words, this would be actual copy once we got it from the client. Okay, let's go back to our original here. And it looks like we have 3 paragraphs. Okay, and there's no reason why I did 3 paragraphs, but it looks like there's 3 paragraphs with space in between each paragraph. So let's do that. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit so that we can see. Oops. Just going to pull this up here. All right. So I'm going to, let's say, take out this line and hit return. oops, hit return and give it a space in here. And then I'm going to give it another space here. Now, whenever you see this plus sign at the bottom of a text box, that means that there's more text underneath. Okay, and if we look at this and we pull this text box down, we can see that there's more text underneath. But I'm going to just clean this up a little bit and end it here. Okay, and then I'm going to move this text box up. And so we're done. Let me do Command 0 so we can see that. Okay, so we have this text box, and that's going to represent this text box here. Notice how it kind of goes over the Japan word. So let's kind of bring this up, and let's kind of put it right about there. Let's take a look and see how far away from the edge it is. And actually, if I brought in a guideline, I can see that it's about, I'm reading up here to the ruler. I can see that it's about, 1.25 inches over. Okay, so let's bring a guideline over here, about 1 inch or 1.75 inches here. And then let's put this text box and lock it in right there. Okay. Now you notice it has red heads or subheads here that says Magnus in red. Okay, so let's do that. Come over to our example here, get the text tool. And I'm going to wipe out this first line here and just type in Magnus, M-A-G-N-I-S. And I'm going to highlight just this word, and I know that it's in chunk 5. And I know the typeface of the subhead is in 12 points. Okay, so it's 12 over 14 chunk 5, and that's what it looks like here. The color of this is red. So under my swatches palette, I'm going to click red. And that's what I have. Okay, actually red, highlight it red, but not 65% red, 100% red. Okay, make sure that that's solid red. The text is 65% black. Okay, so that's my first column. And I'm going to save this right now, save this document. I've done a bunch of things, so I want to make sure I save. So Command S. Okay, and then if we go over to our finished version here, we have another text box off to the right of it that's about I don't know, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines deep. Okay, so let's make that, and we're just going to copy it from here. So I'm going to select this, and with my Option key, I'm just going to duplicate it and pull it off to the side here, just like that. Right? So we have a duplicate. And then I'm going to highlight the rest of this and delete it because we don't need that text. I'm going to get my selection tool and roll up my text box. Make sure that I have nothing underneath here. Oh, I do have one space, so let me delete that space. Okay. And then when I roll up my text box, I don't want to see any red plus sign here. So I know that there's nothing underneath that. Okay, so if we look at our example, then we have our 4 photos and captions here and lines. Okay, if we look at this closely, we can see what's going on here. Let me just zoom in here. Okay, you see what's going on here? We have a photo inside of a circle. We have a line that comes down, and we have a little caption here. Okay. If we make one of these, we're just going to duplicate it 3 times. And then once we create this text, we're going to duplicate it 3 times. Once we create this line, we're going to duplicate it 3 times, and we'll be done. Okay. Again, we're going to copy and paste a lot of this. Oops. Command 0. Okay. So, let's make those. Okay, it looks like this is going over the Japan quite a bit. As we look at ours, I think this word Japan probably needs to come down a little bit more. Something like that. Let's take a look and see. Yeah. And then maybe this, hold the shift key down and select this one also. And we're going to move this up a little bit. Something like that. Anyway, you can play around with this and kind of mess around with the layout, but I get really exact about things. Okay, let's make these photographs. Now, the way you put a photograph inside of a shape is, first of all, we're going to draw the shape. And I'm going to go over to my layers palette, and this time I'm going to target images because I want this to be on the image layer. So I'll go over to my rectangle tool, hold down on the rectangle tool, and grab the ellipse tool. And now I'm going to draw a circle. And the way you draw a circle is you hold the shift key down and then you click and drag, and that draws a circle. Now, what size is this circle going to be? Well, I'll tell you. Okay, I drew the circle. I'm going to get on my selection tool. And I'll tell you that the circle is actually 0.772 inches. Okay, so if we come over here, I'm going to make sure that my linkage is selected. So whatever I type in here, it's going to reflect here. And I'm going to type in, double click, 0.772 and then enter. And that is going to make that circle the exact size we need. Now we don't need the black outline. So if I go to my swatches palette and click on my outline, I'm going to make it none. So that black outline goes away. Now I'm going to place the photo inside of this circle. So I'm going to let this circle, keep this circle selected. And now I'm going to go up to File and Place. And I'm going to get my restaurants JPEG, this photo right here. Now, the key is that when you place an image in something that's selected on the page, it's going to place that photo inside the selected object. So when I click Open, you can see it's selected, it placed it inside of this. Now what I want is the bowl to be in the center. So if I hover over the center circle here, you see that gray little circle? If I hover over that, click and hold, you can see the whole size of the photo. Now that photo is way too big. So what we need to do is we need to make this photo a lot smaller. So I'm going to grab my direct selection tool and I'm going to click on this photo. See if I can select this photo. Actually, okay, so this is going to be another edited portion here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, here is the photo right here. You can see it represented as this big blue kind of shape here with the handles here. I'm going to hold the Command and the Shift key down, and I'm going to click and drag this in so that this is much smaller. Reposition this. Oops. Okay, so I see this large I see this large box here, and I'm going to make it smaller, and I'm going to make it smaller by reducing it down from the center point. So I'm going to hold the Command, Option, and Shift key down, and I'm going to grab the center node here, okay, either the top or the bottom, doesn't matter, and I'm going to click and drag up, and you can see that that photo gets smaller and smaller and smaller until the bowl fits inside that circle. I'm going to let go. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit, spacebar and Command. And now I can click on the center and kind of see that photo and move it around to center it. Okay, so if you need to watch that move again, do so. What I did was I drew the circle first. I brought in the photo. I reduced the size of the photo to fit so that the bowl fits inside of this circle. And then I have exactly what I'm looking for. Okay. So that is the photo that we're going to use. I'll do Command 0 for all 4 of these photos. Now these photos represent places in, Japan that you can go to, points of interest like, popular temples or restaurants or, points of interest. The Ginza district, whatever. Okay, so we know we have 1, 2, 3, 4 photos. So let's duplicate this photo here. We're going to duplicate it 4 times. The best way to do that is hold the Option key down and just kind of click and drag away. Okay, and I'm going to stagger these. Again, click and drag. And I'll move this over here. And I'll move this down here. Okay, and line these up where they're kind of lined up. This is lined up with this one. And these are lined up together. Okay, something that looks like that. Okay, I'm going to do Command S and save. And now we're going to create these captions and this line that comes down here. Okay. Now I can tell you right now that the caption is going to be, let's take a look at the point size of this. And we can see that it's Myriad Pro condensed and it's about 6 points. Okay, this is Myriad Pro bold condensed and it's about 6 points. Okay, so we know that it's, and then about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines or so. Okay, so let's create that little caption. We'll get the text tool. We'll go on our layers and target our type layer. And I'm going to just zoom in a little bit here and I'm going to draw a little text box. And I'm going to choose Myriad Pro. And I'm going to choose condensed. And I'm going to choose 6 points. And let's fill it, type, fill with placeholder text. Okay, that's good enough. Now let's make sure I've got nothing underneath here. Okay. All right. Now we have a couple of lines here that are in red that are bold. So let's do that. It really doesn't matter what it says. So let's just make these. I'll just get rid of some of this here. I'll highlight this and make it Myriad bold condensed. And I will make the color of this red. And let me just get rid of some of that. That's good enough. Okay, that looks good. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And we'll use this as our captions. Actually, I'm going to make this a little bit shorter, get rid of some of this here. All right, so this is going to be our caption. And then we have this little line, this little vertical line here. If I click on this line, you can see that this line is, let me pull this over here, 0.25 points in red. Okay, so let's make a 0.25 line. I'm going to get my line tool, and I'm going to make the line on the images layer. And I'm going to start about up here, and I'm going to hold the shift key down and just kind of drag straight down to about there. Okay, there's our line. Get on my selection tool, and I'm going to make that line 0.25. 0.25. And the line, of course, is going to be in red. Okay. Now the line is going to go underneath this. Okay. That's images, and the line is going to go underneath that. So I'm going to, you notice how the line is above in front of this photo. So I'm going to select the line, and I'm going to go to Object, Arrange, and send it to the back. And when I do, notice how the line goes behind the photo. Just a little thing, but that's how you make things okay. Let's see what we have going here. So that's where we're at. Okay, we're almost done. And let's finish off this. Okay. So we're going to take this text, and we're going to hold the Option key down, and we're going to put that text about here. Duplicate it off again, put it over here, and duplicate this off again and put it over here. All right, and then these lines, let's see where we're at with these lines. Okay, this line is on the left, and on the left. So all the lines are going to be on the left of these circles. So let's move this over. Let's grab this line, and we're going to hold the Option key down again and duplicate it off. Stick it right there. Duplicate it off and stick it right there. And duplicate it off and stick it right there. And we'll move this over a little bit. Oops, don't want to duplicate that. I just want to move it. Okay, something like that. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to do Command S and save that. Command 0 to back out. And now we have all of this, and Command Option 0 to see the spread. Okay. So that's what that looks like now. And this is our example here. Okay, pretty close. Close enough. This text looks a little bit darker than this text, but anyway. Okay, last but not least, let's make the circle and this text. Okay. So the circle here is .7261, and it's in red. And this line right here is a 1-point red line. Okay, so let's make the circle and the line. So we'll come over here, and I'm going to zoom into this area here. I want to grab, the circle is going to be on the images layer. So I'm going to grab my circle tool, and I'm going to hold the shift key down to draw a circle. Doesn't matter what size you draw it, because we're going to change it right here. And we're going to make this circle 0.7261. 0.7261. Okay, and enter. And then we're going to make the swatches, the outline of this none. So that takes that away. And then we're going to fill it with the fill here with red. Okay. And then we're going to back out of this, and let's get the line tool. And let's draw a line, and let's check our example here. And the line goes, okay, the circle is about aligning to the word Japan, like right under the J, right under this serif here. So let's position that first. Okay, somewhere around there. We'll bring this in a little bit. And then we'll get our line tool, and we'll kind of draw, and I'm going to hold the shift key down and draw all the way down to about here. Okay, we might have to adjust this a bit. It's a 1-point line, but it's a stroke here, so we'll make it red. And that will blend right into this, so we don't have to put it in the back necessarily. Okay, so there's that. And then let's do the last part, which is get out on our type tool, and we'll click with our text tool, and we'll draw a box, a text box. And that is going to be in the typeface impact. And that size is 28 points at a 45% black. Okay, so it's 45 points impact. So let's change it to the typeface impact. Go to I, impact. Let's make it 45 points. Enter. Let's, oh, I'm sorry, 28 points. Sorry. And it's centered. And it's going to say 01. And it's going to, we're going to highlight that. We're going to go to the swatches palette, and we're going to make it 45%. Then we're going to place this right on top of this, right there. The 01 is just a little design element that, you know, shows that this is the first spread, Japan. There's 3 main cities here. Well, one is Japan, and one is Kyoto, and the other is Osaka. So Kyoto is going to be 02, Osaka is going to be 03. All right, so we have that, and then all we have to do is put the sound button in, and we're done with this spread. We'll do that last, okay, the very last. So we're pretty much done with the spread now. I'm going to do Command Option 0, and take a look at the spread. Hit my W key to turn off all the guides, and that is it, okay? That is this layout, pretty much. We're just kind of eyeballing it. And I think that's pretty much, yeah, what we're doing. Looks like, anyway, I'm not going to get too particular about making this exactly the same as that, but this is it. Okay, what I like about this layout is that it's airy, it's got a lot of negative space, but it's kind of nicely designed to the point where things are, easily read. I'm going to take this and move it over to the right a little bit more, increase the space in here so that it kind of lines up more with these pieces here. Okay, maybe just kind of move it over so we have this alignment here. I like that better. Okay, so that's that. Let's back out and see the whole thing. I'm going to do Command S. And now we're going to go to the next spread, which is going to be the Kyoto spread right here. And if you notice, we have the same kind of situation going here. So we really don't have to recreate this. This was kind of time consuming. And we have this, okay, we just have to change out the name. And then we're gonna just drop in the photo. So this should come out pretty quick. I'll show you how to do that real quick. And then the Osaka page, I really don't have to deal with because you should know how to put that together after you see this. Okay, so let's go to the second spread here, spread 4 and 5. And the very first thing we can do is let's just bring in all of this stuff here. Okay, so I'm going to go to my layers palette. I want to copy everything but the background. So I'm going to leave my type and images open. I'm going to take my selection tool and just kind of select everything here. Okay, so all of this selects. And then I'm going to Command C. I'm going to come over to my next page. And I'm going to do Command V. Okay, I've got all of this here. And then I'm just going to kind of move these things around a little bit. I know the word Japan is going to go down here. And it's actually, I'll take my text tool and I'll actually highlight that and change this to Kyoto, Kyoto. Okay, so it's the exact same size. If I look at my example here, this is all over on the left side, down low. So I'll go over here and I'll grab all of this. And I'll move this over here. Okay, and it kind of lines up with the word Kyoto here. Okay. I'll just put this over here for now. This is a little bit shorter, so I'll make this shorter. Bring this up a bit. Word Kyoto kind of crosses over the gutter here. So the K is really on this side of the page. So let's do that. Let's move this up and over. And then all of this is going to have to move over to the left a little bit. Okay. And this is going to go kind of over here like this. Just kind of checking to see what the positioning is. Looks like it comes up a little bit. Looks like everything kind of comes up a little bit. So we'll just grab all of this and move it up. Okay. Anyway. Doesn't have to be exact, but we're just kind of putting this in position. Okay, so this is all done now. This is pretty much set, and now all we have to do is bring in our photograph. So let's go to our layers panel and let's unlock our background layer, select our background layer, and then we're going to go File and Place. And the photo we're going to place is our Kyoto vignette. This one here. We'll click Open. And I'll start from the upper left, and I'll click and drag all the way to the bottom and lay that in. Okay. Now we're having a little trouble reading this here, so that is going to kind of be an issue. Over here in this version, we didn't really have that problem because it faded a little bit differently here. It was a little bit lighter fade. This one here wasn't a light enough fade, so it looks like that's a problem because that's really difficult to read. See that? We really don't want to do that. Whenever you put text on top of a photograph, you definitely don't want it to blend in with the back of the photograph. So that would have to be addressed. I think we might have to go back to this photo and lighten this part of it up a bit, just so that this would read. Again, you know, that's why we saved it as a Photoshop file, so that we can go back and make those adjustments. Okay. But anyway, let me bring a guide down here and kind of look at where the bottom of this text is here. And I want to line this text up where it kind of lines up right on that guideline right there. See that? Okay. And that's good design when you have those alignments. And what I also might do is kind of take, oops, let me lock this background layer again. And let me select just these photographs here. And just kind of pull this down a bit. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's bugging me a lot. That might not. We're going to have to lighten that up a bit in the photograph. Okay. So anyway, that is pretty much done. Okay. We have our Kyoto page. And there are some modifications that we need to make. And instead of 01, we can backspace that with the text tool and make that 02. Because, yes, that's 02. And if I turn off my guides, oops. That's what it would look like. All right, so we have page 2 and 3, that looks like that. Page 4 and 5, that looks like that. And then our last spread, Osaka, is going to look like this. Okay. And just for the sake of it, let's just do this. Doesn't take too long to do this. So I'll go to my third spread here. And again, with this Osaka page, we have the same kind of deal going. It's just the opposite. The short text is here, the long text is here, and then only 3 photos rather than 4, and then the word Osaka and so forth. So let's paste in what we had on this spread. Now it's already in the clipboard, so all I have to do is do Command V, and I get everything again because it's already in the clipboard. And I'm going to take all of this, take a look and see. Osaka is here and right up against the gutter, and then these things are on this side of the page. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Let's grab all of this, move it over. And I'm going to take this and move this over to this side, because I believe it's on that side, yeah. And then I'm going to take the word Osaka and move that over here. It's very close to this gutter here, so we'll kind of pull this in close. This time I'll get the text tool and change this to Osaka. Reason why I didn't show is because this text box is too short, so I'm going to pull this out. I should see it all. Then I'm going to, let's just take these here, and I'm going to move this over here for now and mess around with this. I'm going to swap these things out. I'm going to, make the short column over here. So let me just put a guide here so I know where to place that. And I'm going to move this column here. And then I'm going to move this column over here. Okay, something like that. I don't know if that overlaps the text. Yes, it does. It overlaps the word Osaka. So we'll just kind of pull this up a bit. Move this up a little bit. Okay. And then I'm going to take just 3 of these. So I'll get rid of this one and this one. And I'll grab these 3 and I'll just put these over here like that. Take a look at this. All right. Something like that. Grab all of these and put them up a little bit. Okay. So that kind of looks, okay. It looks like this text comes down a little bit more. So I'm going to add some text here. And since I don't have any text here, I'm just going to kind of copy this, Command C. And I will hit my return key twice and Command V to paste in another paragraph. Okay, so that this column is longer. So that looks about right, something like that. Okay, I'm going to do Command S to save all of this. Let me put this over here. See where this, yeah, that looks about right. I'm going to grab this and pull this over a little bit. Okay. Move this over a bit. Okay. Make this bottom bar line up with this last word here. Okay, now Command S to save, and I'm going to place the photo. So I'm going to go to my Layers palette, target my background, unlock the background, and bring in that Osaka photo. So with the background targeted, I'm going to File and Place and look for my Osaka vignette PNG. There it is. Click Open. And I will click and drag all the way to the corner here and let go. And there it is. Okay, now it looks like this is going to be a problem in terms of readability. So what I can do is just kind of lock my background again so I don't move my background. And then I'm going to grab all of this and just kind of move it over a little bit this way. Okay, so that this reads better. And if you want to know if it's going to read, just zoom in here. Yeah, that'll read against this background. Okay. So Command Option 0 sees the spread. All right, so there is that. And that's pretty much the third spread. Okay, so we have 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7. And now all we have to do is just lay in that text on the last page, this text right here. And it looks like it's 3 columns of text, and this text is, I believe, the same size as this text here. Well, it looks like it might be a little bit bigger. But at this point, it really is not that big of a deal. So let's lay in these 3 blocks of text. All right, so now we're going to create this look right here with 3 text boxes. This is white, so let's draw this text box. Get a text box here, and I'm just going to kind of eyeball it here. Draw a text box. I know it's going to be Myriad Pro, so let me go back to my Myriad Pro, and it's Myriad Pro condensed. And yeah, 12.12/14, fill with placeholder text, type, fill with placeholder text, and make the color of it white or paper. Highlight all of this, make it paper. Okay, that looks good. And I have kind of 2 columns of this, so let me hold my Option key down and duplicate. Okay, and kind of make some paragraphs out of this, so let me just delete one of these lines here. And, well, you know what I'll do is, since I did that, I'll just copy this over. And that's good enough. And then I'll copy this over, holding the Option key down. And I will delete most of this text. And highlight this, make it Myriad Pro bold condensed. And make it red. Oh, this is chunk 5. Okay, that's what it is. So let's make this chunk 5 instead. And we don't need as much copy. Something like that. Alrighty. Hit my W key. And that's what the back will look like, something like that. Actually, I'll select all 3 of these and kind of move it over to the left a little bit. There, that looks better. All right, so if we look at our pages, we have everything. We have our cover, we have page 2 and 3, 4 and 5, 6 and 7, and 8. Okay, and we're done. I'm going to do a Command S and save. So that is the layout for this particular project. That's how you create the elements and the layers and the layout, position everything. Again, we did one. We copied a lot of the pieces and then we pasted that to the other spreads. And now what we're going to do is we're going to start animating these things, and I'll do that in the next video. That'll be the final part of this, and then we'll publish this online. Okay, so this is a fairly complex problem or project. I know this video is very long, and I'm going to edit some of it, but anyway, that is what this brochure entails. Okay, so let me kind of stop sharing my screen and say to you that I will be back in the final video and we'll finish all of this up. Okay, now do the best you can. Watch this video, create this. It's probably going to take a number of sessions in class, but this is intermediate level, so we'll see how it goes. Save your questions. Ask me the questions after class if you need some help on doing things, but I think I covered pretty much everything in this. Okay, so with that, I'm signing off. I will see you in the next video.